It appears that any form of artistic expression is an indication of some sort of social failure. Rock star David Bowie was more than that. He was a movement led by one person. He altered his voice, sound, and even style when somebody attempted to control him. He created trends rather than merely following them. Bowie transitioned from a soul singer to a techno pioneer and from a folk singer to a glam deity. I take on the traits of the people I date. Despite his constant use of glitter, makeup, and new styles, he was a strong-willed guy who disliked music that he perceived as phony, uninteresting, or sluggish. Bowie didn't hesitate to voice his opinions or end relationships with musicians who didn't live up to his expectations. He believed that music should challenge listeners, broaden their perspectives, and provoke thought. When other artists played things safe or relied on formulae to succeed, he became quite irate. It inspired him to do better. The side of Bowie that most fans have never seen, the one that went into altercations backstage, clashed with other celebrities, and had a lifetime resentment toward musicians he believed were redefining music, will be shown tonight. Elton John. Glam rock's demise. In the beginning, David Bowie and Elton John got along well. They enjoyed each other's work and were both fans of glam rock. Even the events they attended were the same. However, their friendship did not endure. Why? Bowie's tongue was sharp, and he used it. In 1976, when they discussed Elton, Bowie referred to him as the Liberace, the token queen of rock. That one insult truly hurt Elton. They were initially pals, he subsequently said, but when Bowie declared that relationship ended, that was not the end of it. Elton was just another artist trying to be serious, a whole new group of phonies, Bowie famously joked. Don't you, Elton? That was painful. Bowie was renowned for pushing the boundaries of art and evolving as a person. Bowie was upset because he believed Elton was too safe, flashy but not advancing the music business. They never completely reconciled. After Bowie passed away, he spoke well of him but also admitted that, "We just weren't each other's cup of tea." It is absurd to consider that two of the most well-known figures in British music, who once hung around together, are suddenly chilly and impolite. However, for Bowie, it was a matter of principle. If he believed that you were lying or prioritizing celebrity over creativity, he didn't mind shutting you out. As a matter of fact, Elton was among the primary individuals who were ignored. Newman, Gary, the clone Gary Newman, didn't like being around them. He emulated David Bowie's sound, style, and futuristic vibe because he saw Bowie as a buddy. He spoke this without fear. Bowie, though? In his opinion, it was stealing rather than nice. Bowie reportedly removed Newman from a 1980 television program because he felt Gary was too similar to him. Teenage Wildlife, the following tune, lacked nuance. In it, Bowie ridiculed new wave bands that attempted to emulate his glam and Berlin-era sounds in an attempt to sound like him. Songs like Same Old Thing and Brand New Drag were specifically directed at performers such as Newman. Bowie famously remarked in an interview, "What Newman did, he did excellently, but over and over again." To put it briefly, he believed that Newman had a single, effective tactic that he repeatedly used. Being a huge fan of Bowie, Newman didn't understand why people were being chilly, therefore he didn't like it. Some individuals think Bowie was afraid. In the late 1970s, Bowie was going through a breakup, while Newman was becoming more popular because to songs like Cars. He might not have been pleased to see a younger Bowie with a sound he invented at the top of the charts. Newman was depressed. Although it was obvious that Bowie disliked being copied, he subsequently stated that he wished he could have asked him why he didn't like him so much. Since he considered himself an original, he took it personally when someone, even if they wanted to, duplicated his style without adding anything new. Axl Rose. The cruelty of the night. Bowie typically got into altercations over art or private matters, but this one nearly descended into a street brawl. When David Bowie and Axl Rose first met in 1989, things took a turn for the worst. Bowie arrived on the set of a music video being made by Guns N' Roses. However, Bowie allegedly became overly friendly with Axl's partner, Aaron Everly, rather than merely saying hello. That infuriated Axl. When Bowie returned to a club in Los Angeles later that evening, Axl became enraged. He yelled and lunged towards Bowie, forcing him to leave the structure. Witnesses claim that Axl was furious and exclaimed, "I'm going to kill you, Tin Man," in reference to Bowie's ostentatious attire that evening. This initially appeared to be more than just words. Bowie was now in his 40s, so that was a long time ago, and Axl was the reigning rock tyrant. Bowie, however, wasn't above becoming engrossed in the narrative. When the situation subsided, both men moved on. For a single night, a girl and some unfortunate timing put the slender white duke and the jungle rock rebel in each other's sights. The rivalry ended when Axl later spoke well of Bowie. This period in Bowie's life was very honest and demonstrated how egos and emotions can collide in real life, even for well-known individuals. The Beatles star he didn't look up to, Paul McCartney. Some of the Beatles were liked by David Bowie. He even referred to John Lennon as a teacher because he was his idol. However, Bowie's opinion of Paul McCartney was much different. Bowie stated in a 1990s interview that while the Beatles had a significant impact in the 1960s, he didn't believe the impact was as significant today. He was even more direct with Paul. He remarked, "I don't like much of Paul's stuff. They weren't the focus." Bowie claimed that although Paul appeared like a good man, his music didn't impress him. Bowie felt McCartney's solo work was too polished, too safe, and not quite imaginative enough. Bowie was constantly searching for the next big thing. He believed that Paul was occupied with polishing up past hits, which was incomprehensible to someone who believed that music should always be evolving. There was no quarrel between the two tabloids here. Neither on stage nor in songs did they disparage one another. When they did cross paths, such as at Live Aid in the 1980s, they were even cordial. Behind the scenes, however, Bowie made it apparent that he preferred Lennon's sharpness above McCartney's attractiveness. Both critics and fans listened. Bowie's remarks stood out because of all the discussion surrounding the Beatles at the time. Even if it meant identifying one of the most well-known artists of all time, he wasn't scared to challenge the big names. Bowie didn't care how well his art performed. Everything had a purpose, there was change, and there was risk. And he didn't connect with McCartney's songs. Coldplay, the snub that the world heard. Even if Coldplay was the only band Bowie had ever rejected gently, it still stung. In the hopes that he would sing on one of their songs, the band once invited David Bowie to collaborate with them on a song. Bowie declined throughout their conversation, but it wasn't a polite, "no thanks." According to Coldplay's drummer, Bowie said directly, "It's not a very good song, is it?" That was it. Bowie is being really honest in the best way he can, and there are no dramas or grudges. Chris Martin laughed as he recounted the story after the incident, adding that he was even more impressed by Bowie's candor. He wasn't being kind when he said he liked the music. If he didn't feel comfortable signing it, he wouldn't. Even though Coldplay was a very popular band at the time, that is still the case. Everything you needed to know about Bowie was revealed in that instant. Even when his career came to an end, he held himself to a high standard. To stay in style, he didn't collaborate with famous people or follow trends. He was more concerned with the art than with that. Coldplay was cool with it. They didn't blame Bowie's rejection because they admired him, but that modest rejection became a well-known tale. Bowie, even at the top of the music industry, would never pretend. If he didn't believe something, he told you. With that one sentence, he explained to everyone why he was unique. It's not a very good song, is it? The Velvet fakes he couldn't handle, the Jesus and Mary chain. The Jesus and Mary chain is a loud, hip, and rebellious band that feels like Bowie would love. Bowie, however, didn't think so. In an interview conducted in the late 1980s, he even made deplorable remarks about them. Bowie didn't mince words when questioned about the band. He claimed that they sounded like the Velvet Underground minus Lou Reed and that their music was poor. That is painful. According to someone who knew Lou Reed and loved him, that analogy was extremely harsh. What's the joke? Bowie provided the Mary chain with many inspirations, particularly his use of rhythm and feedback as well as his melancholy appearance. Everything returned to Bowie's creation. However, Bowie believed they were making a mistake in their copying. He believed they were aiming for the Velvet Underground's wild sound without including the depth that made it meaningful. Bowie was unable to overlook that. He detested surface-level copying. He believed that loud or odd people should be that way in real life, not simply because it was nice on stage. Fans were taken aback. Bowie frequently aided up-and-coming vocalists. But he did draw a line here. It's possible that he believed they were riding a sacred animal. The sounds may not have pleased him. Bowie made it plain that he didn't like them, whatever that was. Even one of the greatest performers of the 1980s wouldn't be liked by the thin white duke unless they truly deserved it. David Bowie was more than just a well-known rock musician. He served as a catalyst for change, truth, and the arts. It was evident to us that he was influenced by both his creations and his dislikes of music. Even when there were a lot of well-known people in the crowd, Bowie didn't hesitate to stand out. He had no problem putting somebody down hard or shoving them aside. Whether it was Coldplay's soft rock formulae, Axl Rose's rage, McCartney's safe appeal, Newman's mechanical cool, or Elton John's gaudy glam, Bowie could sense when a piece of music lacked genuine soul or edge. But he wasn't a little angry. It was what held him to his own high standards. Every battle encouraged him to think more broadly, dig deeper, and create music that sounds ahead of its time. Bowie hated things that he believed were detrimental to art, but not because he was envious. Being safe is simple these days, yet Bowie remained bold, truthful, and unapologetic. We'd want to know which of these rivalries surprised you the most. Click like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and remember to subscribe for more rock legend stories. Bowie demonstrated to us that every sparkling legend has a shadow that reveals the true tale.